Hey everybody! Hot off the presses, straight out of our racks are the Ancient Earth colors and 3 mixing iridescences that are going to be in our new watercolor sets. This first one is called Ancient Earth. If you saw the video I did last week with the pigments, they're similar other than these have already been mixed up in watercolor cakes. These were poured about a week ago. The iridescences were just poured a couple days ago, so they still need some more time to set up. But we will be shipping these approximately in about a week. And how we're going to do this is, first of all, our GoFund donors will get the first ones right off the racks. The GoFund watercolor people are going to get this sent first. They're actually going to end up with 3 shipments because then we're going to send the rest of the colors that are dry, and once those fancy palettes that are stuck overseas are in, they will get the palettes that they can organize their colors in. And how the new sets are going to be packed, because they aren't a jar with a cap on the top, we're going to actually put them in these metal tins. It's got a lid to it. Now so when you first receive this little box, it's going to have a bottom layer of foam. Then it's going to have a 2x3, about the size of a business card, piece of magnet tape. Magnet on one side, tape on the other, that you can either just peel off the tape and slap on the bottom of this if you want to, or my preferred method would be to cut it up and place a little magnet tape on the bottom, and it'll stick in the pan and they won't slide or move. So the cakes are going to come in these cute little tins. No more capping your colors. The formulas have been improved, so they wet a little bit better, makes the colors easier to use, a little bit richer. Our normal 6-piece configurations, for example, if you have the Winter Spice set, the colors that are included in Winter Spice are not going to change. We're going to keep the same 6-piece configurations like we have on our regular sets, but we're adding 3 iridescents to the sets. Each set will have 9 colors. So we can teach you guys, if you're not already doing it, on how the iridescents here give you many more color combinations out of one 6-piece set. So as I'm talking about these colors today, we're going to be discussing the colors, and maybe let's say the peacock green is a blue-green and dries with a green shimmer. Then you would know if you wanted to lighten it, you could use the green pearl, also known as interference green, as the mixer to get a lighter value of that color without actually having to use white, or most watercolor artists use water to lighten the shade. Well, you'll be able to get another shade of that color without losing the shimmer. I'm going to set up my table to do some watercolor swatches for you guys, and so you can see these colors in action. I'll be right back. Hey, so I'm back. This is a really huge watercolor palette that I bought at the Society of Decorative Painters show when I was taking watercolor classes. It has all these wells around the edges and then mixing areas in the center. The only bummer is it's kind of an off-white, so it's going to look a little funny in the camera. This color is Peacock Feather. It is our version of Phtalo Green. I kind of went very, very basic earthy colors that were missing in the line. This color is Candied Yams. It's our version of a Quinacridone Gold. Okay. This is Payne's Gray, and yeah, it looks really, really black in the light here, but it's a really, really deep blue. To make a Prussian gray, nowadays you mix ultramarine with like a burnt umber, so it's not gray made out of black and white. This color is warm sienna. It's like a raw sienna color, very, very handy in your palette. This color is called Pink Yarrow, and it's really close to a rose madder, which is a warmer pink. Warmer pink meaning there's just a little drop of yellow in it. It's not really a coral. You can see it's really a pink, but there is a little bit of yellow in there to warm it up. The sixth color in the set is the Interference Orange color. We call it Orange Pearl. We've never had it in the line, and it was relevant with these colors to finally release it. Now, the new option, as I mentioned in the beginning of this video, is we are now adding 3 mixer colors to our little sets. So our 6-piece sets have now become 9-piece sets. But because the half pan doesn't hold quite as much as the 10 gram, the evaluation per mil has kind of been spread over all of them, and you're actually saving a couple dollars of what you used to spend on a 6-piece 10 gram set. But they're all in these nice little pans. You don't have to worry about capping them. The lid goes right on the top, but the air is still in there to let them keep drying. We have tweaked the formulation a bit so they soften a little bit easier for you to use. And now let's get a little bit to the color mixing, shall we? So I'm going to talk about paintbrushes really quickly. My favorite watercolor brushes, and many of you have only seen me do the paint pouring videos. You've not really seen me do any watercoloring on camera. Let's see if we've got the label going the same way so you can see the silver brush label on here. One is a number 6, one is a number 10. Why I like these brushes is the bulb, and so many of us when we start watercoloring we want a tiny little number 2 or number 3 because we want control, and it's hard to control watercolors. But these brushes have a beautiful trimmed hand, I don't know if it's hand trim, but it looks hand trim bulb where this holds a lot of color but comes to a perfect point, and that's a size 10. I'm absolutely in love with my number 6. My other most favorite brush is a double-handed brush. I promise you, as soon as I can remember the artist's name, she had these made for her classes. One side is a 1/2 inch flat, one side is a beautifully trimmed, I think this is a number 12. And between these 3 brushes, I can pretty much do any kind of watercolors. Okay, so I just want to explain what brushes I was using in case somebody asked in the video. First color I want to work with is the Payne's Gray, a very earthy color, a little more unusual because, you know, the novice off the street is gonna think gray is made by mixing black and white, which is true, but Payne's Gray is actually a version of a Prussian Blue that is mixed with brown, and it becomes more shades of gray as you're mixing it. Now I know I just took a little bit straight right out of the pot. I wanted you to see what a hard line was of just that straight color. I'm going to take my larger number 10 brush so I can get clean water. Now this is on dry paper. Of course, that color is way too concentrated. I didn't even mix a little water in it. I pulled it right from the palette, which many of you will do. Now, a close-up on this. A close-up on this, it's going to look really dark, kind of blackish on the top, which is what you want it to do. A blue-black. But because it's made by mixing blue and brown, as it washes out, you're getting more and more shades of blues. You might get browns, like up here in the top here. I don't know if the camera's picking it up, but it's kind of a warmer tone. Almost you can see the brown undertone in there. So what you're going to use for your Stormy Skies. Now, this is just regular text stock. This is not watercolor paper, so the paper is going to grab this a little bit. But there's two methods. So many people will put the paint on dry, then they add the water, and then of course you feel like you can't control it. Many others, when I went and took my classes in Society of Decorative Painters, they taught us to wet the paper with water so we could control the area where we wanted the color to go. I'm going to dip a little bit of my Payne's gray out of this, and as you can see what happens by having the water already wetted. It's moving through, you're getting kind of more of a ghosty sky. Now see, there's almost tads of purple in here. Last night I was trying to mix the Pink Yarrow in there, and there was so much yellow I wasn't really getting a purple. Because it makes sense, if I took a pink and something with a lot of blue in it, I might get purple. I'm going to try mixing it with the warm Sienna. So there's a variation of having the paper already wet, and then it stops where the water stops, versus you putting a hard line of color down. And this is an interesting effect if you want to really draw a really thin line of a hard edge of color. But it may not give you as much of a nice even wash effect as when you're wetting the paper first. So that is the straight Payne's gray. Okay, now let's continue on with Payne's gray. I'm going to set this aside. I'll have all these up afterwards as a shot. See, I'm getting some violets in here. So let's take the Payne's gray and it has a lot of blue, and our Peacock Feather is supposed to be, I don't know how much this camera is going to get a close-up on it, but the Peacock Feather is the green, the Payne's gray is that blue gray we were just playing with. So in this one I'm going to take a bit of the Peacock Feather, which Phtalo Green when thinned down is supposed to be teal, but this still is a little bit too green for me. I'm going to do some other variations with this color, but I discovered last night, going back and forth using these different brushes, by putting one little drop, I mean just on the tip of this brush of the Payne's gray in there, and I instantly got this beautiful turquoise. The camera may not be picking it up at this point because of the yellow surface, kind of that creamy surface that's on. So I have this wetted down with water. I wasn't going to make you watch me paint with plain water. This color that I've mixed, the Payne's gray and the Peacock Feather, and oh my God, look at that stunning turquoise color that we've got there. I need to use watercolor paper on the next one. This is just cardstock and it's starting to bend on me, sorry. But look at that beautiful turquoise by mixing the Peacock Feather and just a drop of that Payne's gray. You're going to find by mixing these colors together, you're going to get some beautiful, beautiful combinations. Let's try this on a piece of watercolor paper. I have some trimmed over here. I think this is 90 weight cardstock. Wash water isn't that clean, so hopefully my wash water is not going to come across green. It's a little bit tinted green, but normally when painters are painting, they don't rinse their wash water out because all the colors you're using in the painting end up being used in the painting anyway, so it doesn't hurt to have your wash water have tints of everything you're using in there to create uniformity. At least that's what I read somewhere. So I've wet the paper. Here's that Peacock Feather. Here's that Peacock Feather mixed with the Payne's Gray. I'm liking all the beautiful shades of light teal I can get off of that just by adding water. Okay. But what if I didn't want to lose the shimmer? What if I wanted a shade that color but still have the iridescence in it? Because typically the more you add water, the more that mic is going to get thinned down, right? Okay, so let's go another route. Let's take our mixers. I didn't put any in this palette here, so I have green pearl, which is one of the ones in the set. The iridescents that are in the set is the interference orange, the interference violet. We have our custom mixed color of all kinds of interferences. We call it oyster, and then the interference green. But on the website it says orange pearl, violet pearl, green pearl, oyster, because public gets confused by the word interference. So I'm going to take a little bit of this interference green or green pearl, mix it on here, and then just pick up a drop of that color. Now if you can see a close-up of that, but I just made a beautiful shade of what looks a little bit like our African jade. See all that beautiful pearl in there, the interference green that's in there? It's really visible once you add just like one little drop of color, okay? And so on the paper, you could paint it dry, but you know you're gonna get a hard edge, right? You can paint that dry. If that's just a color you wanna paint in, like you're working in your coloring books or something. But also, this is painted, it's straight, dry, kind of mixed into that wet, kind of a combo there. Or, I'm going to wet the paper. I'm going to add some of my Peacock. Add a little more Peacock. Actually, I think I want one little drop of the Payne's Gray on top to make it really interesting. That might have been crazy to add. Rinse that brush off. And then I'm going to come in with this lighter shade that I put in here. And as I'm lightening my colors, and I can add water in here while I'm doing this, but as I'm lightening my colors and I'm adding this lighter shade, I am going to have plenty of shimmer and color in my painting. Just trying to see if you can see that. I guess you can kind of see that on the camera. See if you can see that on the camera. I just thought for the fun of it, why not put a little Payne's Gray up there? That might be something you can do for a water line of the ocean, you know, where the dark meets the light in the water. This is that one with just the mixture of the Payne's Gray and the Peacock Feather and water washed out, and that little bit of that light green color that we made with the interference green. This looks a little bit more blue, this looks a little bit more green to me. It's probably because the Payne's Gray, even though it's only up here, it's still reflecting off of this, making all of that look a little bit shade bluer, because my hands are getting stained, guys. So, keep going down the road, still going down that road of Payne's Gray. What else can we do with it? So, I'm really enjoying this turquoise version mixed with the Payne's and the turquoise and the light value, but for the sake of the camera, I'm going to kind of mop this out. You guys can all yell at me later for wasting paint, sorry. But I want to kind of keep my area clean because we're going to try to go through a few colors and mix them. So Payne's gray can also be great for actually just grays and browns in your pieces. Many people will take Payne's gray, and I think it's brown, to make what they consider a black. So I'm going to leave that. There's a lot of paint on that. I don't want to rinse that off at this point and waste all that. I want to keep that for mixing. This is the warm sienna. Now, warm sienna is a brown, but it is a really, 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 really red brown. Let's see if we can get a close-up on this. It's a juicy red brown, okay? So I'm hoping by mixing with the Paynes, I'm gonna get a real smoky gray. So we'll see. We're just gonna add a drop to it. I'll kind of roll it off and try to keep my paintbrush clean and just introduce that color to the palette. Mix my Payne's gray in there. Let's see what we get. I kind of like how these, even though it's cardstock, I like how the 8.5 by luminous sheets show that color all the way across. Now, here's the color straight. Wow, that is so dark. It's a black brown. And then I'm going to add a little water by actually getting the tip of this wet with just a tiny bit of water and letting it run down juicy. Let it run down. Let the color kind of get juicy. Wow, can you see how dark that is? That's really, really, really dark. And it's going to give you smoky grays as you get further out. With the water. That's a pretty color. Boy, you can use that for a lot of greenery, backgrounds, browns, smokes, shading. Oh, and what's interesting, look at this in the camera. Can you see that little bit right there? Because of the interference blue in the Payne's gray, I'm kind of getting an almost violet edge where that browny, gray, black is drying. That's kind of pretty. That'll make an interesting effect on something maybe that I'm painting. And just to give you the comparison, again, I don't want this paper to curl, but I like these full sheets. I'm wetting the paper first, taking some of that same color and running it across where it's going to be a little bit loose. And that gives you an idea of wetting the paper first and the variations you can get. So this is the warm sienna mixed with the Payne's gray. Now, I kept thinking, purple, how do I get a violet out of this kit? Now, Payne's gray in certain lights has that violet cast, but can I get it to be purple? So do I actually just use less sienna because it's got so much red in it, or do I try to force somehow the Pink Yarrow to not look as yellow, because there is yellow in the Pink Yarrow? So I'm going to try just a drop. Well, I don't know if it's a drop. I'm going to try some of this warm sienna. And I don't know if it should be more or less. Something's telling me it should be more of this, but just for grins and giggles, I'll start with less. And see what happens to the color. Still very brown. That's going almost a darker brown than this. I know you can't see that on the camera, but going the opposite direction, it's warmer. Obviously it's a warmer brown, but gives you that smoky brown. It's not red like the normal sienna. That's a pretty color. Didn't give me purple. But that's actually pretty gorgeous. So that is the warm sienna with just a drop of that Payne's gray in there, where this is more warm Payne's gray, more Payne's gray, and a little bit of warm sienna in it. Completely opposite when you're changing your ratios. So I know the Pink Yarrow is very, very, it has yellow in it, and it's kind of a strange red. It's not really a bright pink, but I'm still determined to see if I can't get some kind of purple out of this. So I'm going to put some of that Pink Yarrow down, and let me show you what I mean by a warm color. Let's do some of this straight Pink Yarrow. I'll wet the paper first. That's not really a bright, pretty, purpley pink, if you see what I mean. It's a warmer rose madder color. It's pretty. Very, very pretty. But is it really pink enough to make a purple? I don't know. So I have some rose madder here. I'm hoping one little drop. Boy, that's crazy changed. Good thing I have my two-sided brush, because I'll wet the paper with this flat side. Get this, I'll mop some of this excess off here for you guys. And then this new color, I have no idea what it's going to look like. Well, it's kind of a Paynesy purple. Well, it's a kind of a Paynesy purple. And what's interesting, oh, I didn't even think about this. If I add a little bit of eye violet in this, it's going to make this color, it's a grape, it's kind of a gray grape. But you could use this for, like, if you want some kind of purple undershadows on your work. While we're talking about it, I'm going to add a little bit of our mixer color, Interference Violet, to it. Should say Violet Pearl. I know the real name is Interference Violet, and I keep forgetting to call it by how we branded it. I'm going to mix that in there, that same color that we started with. Oh, look at that. That's what that little bit of Interference Violet's going to give you. Now, it's still not going to be a bright, bright violet, but it does bring more violet to that color. So let's try this again with my dirty water. Yes, I can still see a little green in my dirty water. And then I'm going to take that color, and again, it's more of a dirty gray purple. But when it dries, it's going to have that cast to it, that light purple, violet interference. Looks like it's a little bit watered down too much, actually. I think there was too much water in there. See if we can get that to show up as a light value color. Wow, now here's the Payne's gray when we were playing with it. You notice how I said I saw shades of violets and stuff? Here is that first Payne's gray. It looks like it's almost dry. where I wet it first and just let it bleed down. Look at what happened here. That's kind of wild what we got. And yeah, where that hard edge is, that might be too blue for the Payne's gray people, but believe me, one little touch of warm sienna and you'll be in your heavenly color of gray. Here's those colors we did on that last card. They're already drying really fast because this is regular cardstock. So again, this is that Payne's gray mixed with the warm sienna. Another one, warm sienna, and then more warm sienna with just a dab of the Payne's gray. Again, the mica is going to play into some of this, but these are really concentrated. You're not necessarily going to paint at these shades. So while I have the interference violet out, I might as well show you. Let's just make a lighter shade of pink. That yarrow is pink yarrow is a dark color, as I said, so it is kind of toned down. And if I wanted it a little bit brighter, I'll leave that brush in there so I can just pull some of this violet out of here. Twirl my brush, so I'm just putting the interference violet pearl right there. And then I can mix my color. It's just going to make a slightly brighter, more violet shade. Again, a very antique rose. It's not a typical rose color that I've seen. I'm going to try this on watercolor paper. And let's see if I've got a brush loose. I can wet the paper with. Good thing this has that double handle again, so I can wet the paper with the flat side. Yeah, I need to change my water eventually, guys. That water still has a green cast. Sorry, keep seeing that on camera. And then I'm going to take this yarrow with the violet. It is a lighter shade of the yarrow, but as it dries, more of the interference violet will come through. And as the interference violet comes through, or the violet pearl comes through, you can see you get all different shades of pink. So having these mixers is pretty darn handy. Another color we haven't played with yet and is one of my absolute favorites is the Candied Yam. I'm just going to flip this tray around so I've got a clean place to start here. Take some of my pink over to this side. And the Candied Yams is our version of Quinacridone Gold. Which really is starts as a warm orangey brown, golden orange brown, if that's a good description of it. That as it gets lighter, you're going to see more shades of lighter gold, lighter orange, lighter yellow. It's more of an antique yellow. You're not going to get a bright butter yellow out of it. But it does remind me of the inside of a candied yam when it gets cut open. So what happens if I mix that with some of my interference copper? I think I have some, I want to use some here. It's the copper pearl. I just rinse this brush off so it's clean. So there's some of the copper pearl mixed in. And it already jumps to that buttery yellow color, but it's going to dry with a beautiful interference orange or orange pearl shimmer. You can see where these colors are mixed together. So this is the orange pearl sitting here with the Candied Yam kind of mixing in there. Give you all kinds of variations of shades of color that you can use. This is hands down one of my favorite colors for painting is Quinacridone Gold and like a Pink Yarrow. So these colors are so fun to do your watercoloring with. And you know, out of all the colors I came out with, all these brights, I can't believe that I kind of skipped this very important color group. So this is the Candied Yam, and then the Candied Yam mixed with the copper pearl. So I want to make an olive green. First of all, let's say I want to make a different shade of green. Our Peacock Feather is a really dark green. Supposed to be more fallowish, but on some cameras it looks like a bright Kelly, so we'll see how it translates today. Ooh, that's not bad. The watercolor paper, it is coming out with that turquoise undertone that I was hoping for of a phthalo. Okay. I'm not going to bring it all the way down because I'm going to show you different shades of greens we can make with this. So this is almost going to the turquoise, which is exactly where I want it to be. Okay. Now let's take a little bit of that color. Okay, right here. Take a little bit of the peacock, and then we're going to mix a little bit of our Candied Yam in here. That's this one right next to it. Now this is the Candied Yam. The Candied Yam has all that yellow in it. So let me take a little bit of the Candied Yam. Oops, sorry, I've already got it on the palette here. Take some of that Candied Yam, mix it with this green, and ooh, I get that as soon as I add yellow. Okay, now that's a little bit olive. I want more of a Kelly green. Okay. So there's my Kelly green. So let me add a little more yellow to it so we can get the color we had before. And I'm going to lighten it up here to the side. I'm trying to get a kind of a mossy green. A little more yellow. I'm getting a mossy green. So this is the Peacock Feather with a little bit of the Candied Yam, a little bit more of the Candied Yam. Now what happens if I really want to make an olive? Well, to make an olive, you need to add a tiny bit of red to your green, just a drop. And our warm sienna, it's over here in this little pot over here, is very, very, very red brown. It's more red than any other color in there. So I'm going to add a little drop there, especially in a green, you know you can get away with it. Add that in there until I see that olive come up. Now I might have put too much in there. Let's see if it gives me an olive. That's kind of a brown olive. Let's look at that first. That's more of a very brown olive, right? Now that's the Peacock Feather mixed with the Candied Yam, and then a little bit of the warm sienna to get an olive. But that's kind of a brownie olive, but that's okay. And I say, okay, well that's a little bit too brown. Let me add one more bit of my Peacock Feather in there. And can I get a real earthy olive? So I'm going to fight with this. I'm adding some more red. You saw me add some more green until I just get to that perfect color. Something's telling me I just need a little bit more of this yellow to warm it up. And let's see what we get. There we go. We now have a dark green olive. And this is by taking the Peacock Feather with a little bit of the Candied Yams, tiny bit of the warm Sienna. I got this olive brown. Added a little more green and another more drop of that Candied Yam right here so I could get that beautiful earthy green. And all of these colors are coming out of this one Ancient Earth set. So it gives you a lot of variations of shades of greenery you can get out of this one watercolor set. So we've done the Pink Yarrow, we've done the Quinacridone Gold, we've done the, let's do the warm Sienna. Yeah, let's just do straight warm Sienna. May seem not that exciting, but when I mixed it with that interference, or that copper pearl, they call it, it's technically copper pearl, but we call it orange pearl, I really got a juicy, beautiful color. So I've got some of this orange pearl here. I'm going to use my center well because it's clean. Kind of scrape off some of this orange pearl, okay? I'm going to take just a drop, which you can't see over here, sorry I'm out of the camera here, just a drop of my warm Sienna and mix it in here. Ooh, that's pretty. It's endless what you can do by mixing these colors with the iridescence. That's the whole point of having the mixing colors in the sets and turning what once was our 6-piece sets into 9-piece sets. But because of the volume of what the half pan holds, the price isn't really going to go up. It's actually going to go down. I think it goes down about $1. So it's a really great value. So this is that color that's mixed. It's kind of giving me a blush tone. All that warmth of that Sienna, you can see all those pinks. Sorry, again, I'm noticing that my water is green, but that's okay. Again, it's really not going to change the outcome of the color. I mean, once it does, I guess I'll go change my water. But that is the warm Sienna mixed with the copper pearl. God, that's pretty. And then this is just the straight warm Sienna, wet brush on a dry paper, straight across. As it is, before you're adding that copper pearl, or orange pearl, excuse me, orange pearl. So this is with a little bit of the orange pearl, and this is the straight raw Sienna. So that's my product review on the Ancient Earth set. This is a little rose that I painted with the set. I'm not assuming that anybody's going to think I'm any great watercolor artist or anything. Actually, this little rose, when I went to visit Fred Mullet, shout out to Fred Mullet, he used to have his studio in Seattle. We visited him, and he had taken these images that he had drawn in pencil, put them in his computer, and gave me a few of these. And last night when I was looking around, I didn't realize I had that little, looks like a little sunflower. I'll do this next. Sunflower would be great in these colors. I decided to just paint up one of these last night. Hope you've enjoyed this little preview of the Ancient Earth set. One more time, all the GoFund donors, or anybody buying the watercolor sets on our website, and by the way, we're making an extra, I think we have an extra 7 of the full sets that we're pouring right now. So anybody who goes in as a donor, and you can do it on our website, and buys that full set, they're going to be in the same league as the regular donors. Unfortunately, they've been waiting all this time because everything's coming off the dryers at the same time. So the watercolor donors are going to get 3 shipments. They're going to get the Ancient Earth set to them right away. just to give them something in their hands. All the other colors are coming off the dryers. When the rest of them are complete, they'll be shipped. And as soon as our fancy metal tins are released from Asia, yeah, they're still stuck up there, but I'm not going to hold up the release of the watercolors for these things. We'll ship these separately. These are a special pan that you can put half pans or full pans in. They sell anywhere on the internet for $17 to $29.99 for just this empty tin. All the GoFund donors are getting enough palettes to coordinate with a color reward package, or if it's 216 colors or 108 colors, or if you pick the 72 color set, I forget the combinations that are up there, you will get enough of these empty tins to accommodate your sets. However, we're not going to force the public to buy Twinkling H20s in these. These will be sold separately as a tool that somebody can use to store their stuff. We will be selling the sets in these cute little tins with the magnet strip on the back that they can have them set up. So we're not making our regular watercolor people have to pay any more money for their colors as we make this transition. You can see us at www.colourarte.com. Once again, this is Leslie Ohnstad. I am the designer of the Twinkling H20s in the Colourarte brand. And I hope you have a wonderful day, and thank you for watching. Bye-bye.